You swipe the card. It feels like nothing happened. No cash left your hand, no weight left your pocket. Just a small beep, a green check mark, and you're walking out the door. But the real reason that feels so easy is far stranger than convenience. Your brain has been tricked into believing that debt is safer than saving, and once you see how, you'll never look at your credit card the same way again. Here's the strange part. Owing money should feel worse than having money. It doesn't. For most people, debt feels calm, controlled, almost responsible. Meanwhile, watching your savings account shrink feels like panic. Why would your brain get that backwards? The answer starts with a simple psychological trick called decoupling. When you pay with cash, the pain of paying happens at the exact same moment as the pleasure of buying. You feel both at once. That collision creates discomfort. Economists call it the pain of paying, a term coined by researcher Drazen Prelek at MIT. He found that credit cards separate the purchase from the payment. You get the reward now, you feel the cost later. Sometimes weeks later, sometimes never, if you only pay the minimum. That gap is not an accident. It is the entire business model. Think about the last time you bought something on a credit card. Did you feel a twinge of guilt? Probably not. Now think about the last time you handed over cash for something expensive. That twinge was real, wasn't it? Same amount of money. Completely different feeling. Your brain doesn't process debt as a loss. It processes it as a delay. But delay is not the same as safety. It only feels that way. Here's where it gets stranger. Debt doesn't just delay pain. It replaces one kind of stress with another kind that your brain is worse at detecting. Researcher Dan Ariely at Duke University has spent years studying what he calls the invisibility of debt. In his research, people consistently underestimate how much they owe, sometimes by wide margins, because debt lives outside the immediate sensory experience of spending. You don't see it, you don't touch it, you don't feel its weight in your wallet. So your brain quietly stops counting it as real. This is why maxing out a credit card can feel less alarming than watching your checking account hit zero. Zero is visible, zero is loud, debt is quiet. It sits in the background growing while your day-to-day experience of money stays smooth and uninterrupted. Smooth, that word matters more than you think. Humans are wired to prefer smoothness over volatility, even when volatility would actually serve them better. This idea traces back to work by psychologist Daniel Kahneman and economist Amos Tversky, whose research on loss aversion showed something remarkable. Losses hurt roughly twice as much as equivalent gains feel good. So your brain isn't just avoiding loss, it's desperately trying to avoid the feeling of loss, even if that means creating a much larger loss later. Debt lets you avoid that feeling today. That's the whole illusion. Every time you delay a payment, you are essentially borrowing calm from your future self. And your future self doesn't get a vote, they just get the bill. Compounding interest doesn't care that you felt fine in the moment. It doesn't care that swiping felt smoother than counting bills. It just keeps growing, silently, invisibly, while you go about your life feeling perfectly secure. So why does this pattern repeat? Generation after generation, despite everyone knowing debt is expensive. Because knowing something intellectually and feeling something emotionally are two completely different systems. Interest rates compound. Minimum payments barely touch the principal. But knowing doesn't override the immediate physical relief of not having to feel the cost right now. That relief is real. It's chemical. It's the same relief system that makes procrastination feel good in the moment, even when you know the deadline is coming. Debt is financial procrastination. It postpones a feeling, not a cost. Now here's the twist that changes everything. The people who build real wealth are not the ones who avoid debt out of fear. They are the ones who made debt visible again. They force themselves to feel it. Some call this the envelope method. Some call it a cash diet. Some just check their balance obsessively, on purpose, so the number never goes quiet. What they're actually doing is reversing the decoupling. They're reconnecting the purchase to the pain, on purpose, so their brain gets the full signal instead of the muted one. This isn't about avoiding credit cards forever. It's about refusing to let the gap between spending and feeling grow too wide. The wider that gap, the easier it is to disappear into it. Think of debt like a treadmill running just slightly faster than your legs can comfortably move. At first, you barely notice, you adjust, you keep pace. But every missed step adds up, and the traya,